What's going on, golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Fairways and Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, on this Tuesday show, which is my solo show. Every single week, I talk about the latest news in the game of golf and any topic that I feel like is pertinent in my brain, talk about what I want to talk about. And in this case, this is just a reminder, folks, golf is really hard. Golf is very difficult. It is a challenging game in every sense of the word. And if you didn't realize it, you probably did after watching the Memorial Golf Tournament this past weekend in Muirfield Village. Jack's tournament. We will talk about the latest news in the game of golf and JT Boston's first win in a long time. It's golf is challenging. So let this stemmed from watching a lot of the signature event this past weekend, which again went to a playoff, second week in a row. Charles Schwab, it was Russell Henley. Now JT Boston's winning. I don't know if it's Poston. Sorry. The guy entered with plus 15,000 odds to win the tournament. So not too familiar. I'm sure you aren't too familiar, and that's okay. But the one thing that I left with for watching this golf tournament is that, my gosh, the game of golf is really difficult, and it's also extremely unpredictable. And I'm not talking about predicting what exactly is going to happen, like I do with the press podcast every Wednesday where we preview the upcoming tournament. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it's unpredictable in the fact that there are times where you feel really great about your game and you go out on the golf course and for whatever reason, feels like you have never swung the club before. And you can see this play out on the PGA Tour. And the reason why I want to say that is that the PGA Tour players that we're seeing, they're demonstrating the fact of how difficult golf is. Are they playing the most difficult courses? Yes, they are. Are those courses being amplified to be even more of a challenging test? Yes, they are. Are they comparable to your local municipal course? No, they're not. But at the same time, the game of golf is the game of golf. And so when you're watching players and listening to what players are saying, you might be tempted to scream, yeah, one of us, one of us. You see a player hit a bad shot and you're thinking, yes, you're seeing Alex Smalley shoot in the 80s on the PGA Tour. And you're thinking, yes, I mean, this is a guy that was vying for the PGA Championship just 3 or 4 weeks ago, was the leader heading into Sunday. He shot in the 80s. I mean, think about what we're talking about. But the one thing that I leave thinking to myself, and this is maybe just, I guess I'm too hard on myself. I leave those events and watching the PGA Tour pros struggle. And I think, my gosh, if they can't do it, how am I ever going to do it? That is the way I feel when I watch pros struggle. When I watch pros and they're just really flying at every single pin, they're making long putts, their short game is fantastic. That gives me a reason to say, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I can't do it like they do it, but I can improve myself to be better. And when I see the pros struggling, sometimes it makes me feel like, shoot, what am I wasting my time? If they can't even do it, how could I do it? So there are two trains of thought, so to speak, as it pertains to how we view this. But a lot of people will watch and say, yes, I want to see him struggle. Yes, I want to see those really, really bad numbers. I can't say that I feel that way. There are certain events like the US Open and most recently the PGA Championship where it was a very tough test of golf. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with testing the best in the world on the best courses in the world. But let's talk about specifics, right? Let's talk about this past weekend at the Memorial. You heard Jason Day. Boy, did he open up and get vulnerable, talking about his struggles in the game of golf. Talked about being in his trailer and man, just the mental drain and how he just doesn't feel like he's been comfortable over the golf ball in a very long time. Speaks to the mental component, the mental challenge, the mental struggle in the game of golf. And we've all been there. I go back to the last mixtape that we recorded when Dan talked about how he played in the 2-day tournament. It was a very strict, it's an amateur tournament. And he's talked about how for the first part of the first round, he felt like he didn't know where the ball was going at all. He's bringing the club back and saying, no clue what's going to happen. Jason Day spoke about playing for a miss. He's playing for a miss. He's not saying, okay, I'm going to aim at that tower. that's about 5 paces to the left of the green. I'm going to cut this thing back to the middle of the green. It's going to be right on the pin. Feel good about the number. Feel good about the club. Feel good about the wind. Yada, yada, yada. Feel good. He's saying, no, I can't aim at that tower because I've been blocking everything. So I need to aim to the left side of the green, which is a good 20 yards away from the target, because I'm going to block it to the right. So now I'm playing for a mishit. That is a bad mental place to be. And again, the amateurs are like, yeah, I know what that feels like. How about Rory McIlroy? Anyone else see Rory McIlroy completely whiff in the rough at the ball, the Memorial? He was short-sided. He had to go over a bunker. That's a delicate shot. He opens up the blade, goes too far underneath the golf ball, and it just literally drops down further under the rough. And you're watching Rory McIlroy at a signature event whiff. Now it's not like he whiffed on the tee, but still it was a stroke taken and the ball advanced 0 yards. And so you see that again, you're like, gosh darn it. Like yes, that's challenging rough. And there were a lot of players that said this past weekend that this course, Muirfield Village, is maybe one of the toughest tests of golf on the PGA Tour. And that even is up there with some of the major championships that they play in. But then after the round, Rory was asked about his game, about how he feels like he's hitting his driver. And he was very honest. And you know what he said? He went into ridiculous detail about how when he's bringing the club down towards impact, he feels like he's getting his hands too low, which causes him to have to feel like he's dragging the grip down. He's getting a lot of contact on the toe of the driver. And when he tries to overcorrect, he's hitting it now on the heel. I mean, he went into specifics about his struggles with the driver. I mean, that's typically Rory's MO, is hitting the driver well. And so you hear Rory talking about this now too, and you're compounding this with Jason Day, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And then Scotty Scheffler. Mr. Scotty, super consistent Scotty Scheffler. Super controlled Scotty Scheffler. And when I say controlled, I'm talking about his game, control the ball flight, control the distance, just controlling his emotions, controlling how he handles the course and what happens on the course. Well, you've seen some different Scotty Scheffler this year. I heard someone, it was a pundit who said this. I can't disagree. He said there's a lot of Jordan Spieth in Scotty's game right now. Yeah, I would agree. That sounds like such a damning statement, but Jordan Spieth, he lives and dies by scrambling around the golf course. He hits one so wayward and has to pull off a miracle par. Scotty Scheffler had to do that on more than one occasion this past weekend. Anyone see Scotty shank the ball out of the bunker? It was a shank. You could say it was off the hosel. You could say whatever you want. He shanked the ball out of the bunker. These are things you never saw Scotty Scheffler do before. He might hit one. He might catch it a little fat. It doesn't carry as far as he wants. He might even catch it a little thin and it goes too long. But shanking the ball out of the bunker, that is not something we have seen from Scotty Scheffler since he started his tour of dominance back in 2023. The putting frustrations. Anyone else see? I think it was on 15. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 16. It was on Friday, I do believe. He and Ted Scott got the wind wrong. He flushed a 7-iron, thought it was going to be right on the stick. Instead, the wind pushes it to the left, about 2 yards too far left, hits the bank, goes down in the water, and he's verbally frustrated. Not visibly, verbally. And Ted Scott has already started his march towards the green, and Scotty's behind him chirping. I can't believe this. This is him saying, you know how frustrating it is? Do you know how frustrating it is to flush a shot and to be in the water and we're dropping from a drop zone because we didn't get the wind right? Now, some people thought that was Scotty really getting after Ted Scott. And I'm sure there was a bit of it that was just, I need to relieve some of this frustration or alleviate some of that frustration. But ultimately, I think it was just Scotty being frustrated with the state of his game, frustrated with everything. And so you see Scotty with all these different, we've seen him swing the golf club and just kind of drop it behind him. We've seen Scotty, I don't know how many times, where he has his hands up on his head and he's wringing his hands and just, he can't figure it out. And so when you see these frustrations from a guy who's normally so controlled, again, you're saying, gosh, man, if Scott Scheffler can't do this, what What are the hopes of me doing it? Golf is difficult. It is really tough, and it's also a roller coaster. You will have moments in your game, and I'm not just talking about singular moments in a round. I'm talking about rounds that are compounded together that are fantastic, and then rounds where you're like, what is going on? Look at Cameron Young as an example. Cameron Young wins the Players' Championship. He is in the final pairing on the Masters on Sunday. He doesn't win it, but he has a great finish and great tournament. He goes on to win the Cadillac Championship, a signature event. This guy's playing some of the most, he's red hot. Like, he was so hot in terms of the world of golf. He was the hottest player on tour. And what has he done since? Not much is the answer. This past week, a signature event, he made the cut, but finished tied for 46th. Cameron Young has struggled as of late. And so here you have this guy, this golfer, winning these big time tournaments. And then what happens? He was a no-show at the PGA Championship, and he has struggled, and the struggles have continued. And so this roller coaster ride of, man, I'm on top of it, and then you come crashing back down. There's actually a commercial for the PGA Tour, and I think it's Rory McIlroy. They've got, Scotty Scheffler. You can hear his voice in the background saying, all I know is that all I've ever wanted to do was to compete at this game at the highest level. And I believe it's Rory's voice after that says, you'll find that the challenge of getting to the top of the mountain is difficult, but it's even more difficult to stay there. And you're seeing that play out on the PGA Tour as we watch these events go down. You're seeing these players who you're like, these guys are winning signature events. JT posted, what? Who? Plus 15,000 odds to winning a signature event, a limited field event. There was a cut, mind you, but he's winning this event that's got all the biggest names in golf in it. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler. You're talking about Ludwig Oberg, Cameron Young, Shane Lowry. I could go down the list of players. You talk about Aaron Rai, major championship winner. He was in the field. And no, it's JT posted outdueling Ryan Garrard in a playoff. Think about that. Golf is difficult. Golf is really, really difficult. And so while I talk about how I view watching the pros struggle, I think it is also a good reality check to remind ourselves from time to time that, you know what? This game is difficult. This game is challenging. And we have to give ourselves a little bit of leniency as it pertains to how we handle our expectations with the game. You're going to have bad rounds. You're going to have bad stretches of play. Most of the time, you're also going to be accompanied by some great rounds, and good stretches of play. I ultimately think that the biggest challenge, at least for me, is that I don't golf enough to be able to experience all of those ups and downs. I don't play enough to experience the roller coaster ride. Mine are just more like blips on the radar. Play 9 here, scramble here, play 9 here, 2-man scramble here. Like, that's it. So for me personally, to give you a personal story here, I need to get out and play more. And I think that ultimately when I don't golf a lot, I don't have a lot of expectations for when I do play. It's just go out and do the best that I can. And maybe that's what we all should adopt. And that philosophy, that methodology, it's something that my brother and I have talked about at length before. And that is that when we golf for the first time that season, is typically one of our best rounds of the season. Why? You don't expect anything. You go out there and say, well, I haven't played yet this year. I haven't really practiced that much this year. Well, what the hell? Let's see what we can do. And you go out and you play good golf because you don't have the thought process of, oh my gosh, am I going to have this miss or that? No, I don't know. Golf is really, really freaking difficult. Just a reminder, in case you didn't know. All right, let's talk about the latest news in the game of golf. Everything is going to surround itself around that JT Poston win. Again, it was a 2-hole playoff, and it was Garrard who hit a wayward shot on that second playoff hole, and Poston parred to win. Garrard 3-putted. And so yeah, it was a very exciting finish. Not necessarily the playoff. I mean, the playoff golf is playoff golf, but it was down the stretch when, Tommy Fleetwood had an eagle. Sam Burns was vying for it at a point. Wyndham Clark was there. But I'm going to be honest here, folks. It was a crazy finish, but I thought it was a very weak leaderboard. I mean, think about it, the top 10 players in the tournament. So we had JT Poston, Ryan Gerard, Wyndham Clark, Tommy Fleetwood, Sam Burns, Wrighton was there, Alex Fitzpatrick was in the top 10, which is crazy. That guy wins the Zurich and he's finishing top 10 in these signature events. Eric Cole, who was the one that lost in a playoff last week to Russell Henley. He was in the top 10. Alex Noren and Siwoo Kim and Maverick McNeely rounded out the top 10. That's it. I mean, think about this. Rory, T12. Scotty, T12. JJ Spawn, T12. Justin Thomas and Aaron Rye, T19. Russell Henley, T22. Shane Lowry, T22. Chris Goddard, T27. Xander Schauffele, T29. You talk about Ludwig Goldberg, 39th. Matt Fitzpatrick, T36. Hideki Matsuyama, T43. Cameron Young, T46. You talk about these players that missed the cut. Jordan Spieth missed the cut. Andrew Novak misses the cut. Robert McIntyre misses the cut. Ben Griffin, Min Woo Lee misses the cut. Ricky Fowler misses the cut in back-to-back events. I get it, and I'm not taking anything away from the victory. 12 under to win at this tournament with these conditions was remarkable. And also, you think about those players that had to go out and play a significant amount of round 3 on Sunday and then finish round 4. Again, it was a great finish. I thought it was a very weak leaderboard. Definitely not what CBS wanted. But it did show off the depth of the PGA Tour. I think there was a time where people just got sick of seeing Scotty Scheffler win all the time. And instead, they're not. They're seeing a bunch of other guys win. And maybe that's good for the game in some instances. You still do want your Rorys and your Scotties and your Cameron Youngs to continue to do well. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This upcoming week, we go to the RBC Canadian Open. And so that's an interesting tournament. We'll talk about that on the press podcast, as well as the god-awful week that we had last week, the Memorial. Let me just give you a little hint. We have to start a new streak. We'll put it that way. The last thing I want to bring up about the latest news in the game of golf, Monday was the longest day in the game of golf. And for those that know that this is the final qualifying stretch for the United States Open, which is at Shinnecock this year. And so you had some big name players, Max Homa most notably, who are trying to qualify. They're trying to get out there. They're trying to earn their spot. And it was crazy. I don't know the gentleman's name. He wins on the Corn Ferry Tour. He had to go and get in a cart quick, and he had to go make it to his Monday qualifying for the U.S. Open and try to earn himself a spot in the field at Shinnecock. Just crazy stuff. But this week, the RBC Canadian Open, you're not going to see a lot of the big name players unless they're trying to win and get themselves into more events later. But your Scotty Schefflers, your Rory McIlroys, your Cameron Youngs, they are going to be off this week, most likely. They're going to be taking the week off to get themselves mentally, physically ready. Also probably get to Shinnecock early, get some extra time in. I know that Scotty Scheffler spoke before the Memorial that he went to Shinnecock for the first time this past week when they were off. He said he played a couple rounds. He was very surprised by how wide the fairways were. He said, but if you miss the fairway, even the first cut is long. The second cut is almost death. So they're giving you a lot of space to hit the fairway. And if you miss the fairway, you're dead. But if you can hit fairways, he talked about the green complexes and how nuanced they are and how difficult. He said they can make this course really challenging. So we'll be talking about that not next week. Well, we'll be getting ready next week, for that U.S. Open. That's going to be a lot of fun as we preview that major tournament. But all right, that does it for me on this Fairways and Dreams podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with the press podcast, giving you my picks and predictions. We finish these up though. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the press. Take it easy.